Believe it or not, some out there are still debating whether we're actually hurtling towards a climate crisis. But here in India, we're seeing the impact of what is clearly unusual climatic behavior. So what's the big deal, you may ask? Well, heavy unseasonal rains and the flooding that follows may have caused the deaths of over 500 people this year alone. The latest areas to be hit are in Bihar, Patna, where even the Deputy Chief Minister Sushil Modi and his family had to be rescued.
48 hours of ceaseless rains battered Patna and 38 other districts in Bihar. At least 29 people lost their lives in the rain-related incidents.
बच्चा दो तो अभी तक कोनो खबर नहीं है खोज रहे हैं भाग गया क्या हुआ नहीं हुआ
बहुत समस्या हो रही है समस्या के तो नाम ही नहीं है गाड़ी तो लगता है कि पूरा का पूरा डूब गया है और लोग बहुत ड्यूटी जाना मुश्किल हो गया है फिर स्कूल लड़कन के स्कूल जाना मुश्किल हो गया है.
It's the third spell of flooding in Bihar after the July-August rain fury. The weatherman has issued a red alert in the state as boats instead of vehicles ply on the roads. Widespread flooding has thrown normal life into disarray in capital city Patna. Officials believe that Bihar is witnessing one of the worst waterlogging since the 1975 floods. Several teams of NDRF and the SDRF have been deployed in the affected districts. The NDRF also rescued Bihar Deputy Chief Minister Sushil Kumar Modi and his family, towing them away on a boat after they remained stranded for 3 days at their Patna residence. However, the Chief Minister put the onus on the weather department for being clueless, conveniently shifting the blame on climate change for the government's lack of preparedness.
अभी तो जो कुछ भी है ये तो नेचुरल है, नेचर का है और उसके लिए जो संभव है किया जा रहा है, लेकिन थोड़ा मन में हिम्मत रखना पड़ेगा.
The situation is no different in Pune. 5 people, including a 9-year-old, were killed after a wall collapsed in Pune's Arneshwar area, which was flooded after torrential rains. The death toll is only increasing by the day. The city witnessed as much as 100 mm of rainfall in just 4 hours, causing massive devastation on Wednesday. All schools and colleges have been shut till tomorrow. And it's not just Bihar and Maharashtra. Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Kerala witness the nature's fury every year. While we can take cues from the Odisha government on our preparedness, we come across the same old question. Why are Indian cities not prepared for extreme rainfall? Amid the recent awareness on global warming, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, a UN body, has released a report claiming 4 Indian cities, Kolkata, Mumbai, Surat and Chennai, are facing serious risk due to rising sea levels. According to the report, even a mere increase of sea level by 50 centimeter will lead to flooding. The question remains, when will we have a proper drainage system, accurate forecast, good urban planning and proper emergency response system in place before any more lives are lost? Shivli Ghosh, ET Now.
Now, whether it's Mumbai, where floods are an annual affair, or Pune, which was exposed as completely unprepared for heavy rains, or even Patna or Vadodara, where crocodiles were floating on the streets, there are 2 things we know for sure. One, the intensity and duration of rainfall is getting heavier, and current infrastructure is woefully inadequate to handle this. So what do we do about this situation? To speak more on this, I'm joined now by Sunita Narayan, Director General at CSE, and Professor Shrikant Gupta at the Delhi School of Economics. Welcome to both of you and thank you for speaking with us today. Ms. Narayan, let me begin by just getting your view. So far, the commentary on what we're seeing in Patna today, yesterday, in Pune, last week, has been that this is unusual rain. We saw that in Mumbai also. Just a couple of months ago. This is unusual rain, no one can deal with it. Is that the entire truth, or is there also a part to play of poor infrastructure?
No, absolutely, Tamanna. I mean, let's be clear. There are 2 truths here. One, there is definitely an impact of climate change. We know that our monsoons are becoming more extreme. We are getting more heavy rain, less moderate events, which means India will get more rain but in fewer number of rainy days, and that's what we are seeing. But this is only exacerbating what we are doing currently. We are mismanaging our own city drainage systems. We are sitting ducks for this kind of heavy rain today. I mean, whether it's Patna, whether it's Pune, whether it's Mumbai, whether Barodara, Bangalore, Chennai, Delhi, name any city of India, it is not planning for drainage. It is not planning to capture the rain when it falls. It's destroying its wetlands. It's building on its floodplains. It's completely making sure that it is much more vulnerable today when climate change happens. But let's get the narrative right. I see today politicians and others start talking about it and saying, what can we do? This is climate change.
Yeah.
That's wrong. The fact is, climate change is exacerbating our own mismanagement, and that's what we need to fix.
You know, that's a very important point, Professor Gupta, and I'm going to get a word from you on this as well. It's almost as if climate change has become a scapegoat, and it well may be that you know, there is unusual rain, a lot of rain in one single day, but perhaps the impact would have not been so disastrous if there was not such rampant construction which has blocked any way for the water to go. There has been a mess on our side as well.
Well, yes, I actually firstly fully agree with Sunita that it's a combination of both factors, and I think it's really pointless to try and say which one is more important. The fact, of course, is that the weather is changing, and as you yourself mentioned, the unusual is now becoming the usual. So what are called extreme weather events, very short, very sharp and heavy bursts of rain and other such events are becoming more and more common. And yes, absolutely, we are totally unprepared for these events. I also just want to segue into something you said earlier about climate deniers. Well, you know, there always be people saying that the earth is flat. And these flat earthers, obviously, if they were to sail to the edge of the earth, would realize that how dangerous it is. So I think that firstly, the fact that there's climate change is undeniable. Definitely better planning of our cities is something that's called for. But it is also true that the climate is changing in very rapid ways. We not only have to do better planning for our cities and other parts of our country, but we also have to increase the resilience of the Indian economy, or if you want, climate proof the economy a lot better than what we are doing right now.
Okay, you know, I want to come to another aspect of it, and Professor Gupta, you started by saying that there are two facts. One is, of course, our inadequate infrastructure, and the other is the fact that there are going to be unusual climatic situations. We can, at the moment, change only one of the two. The first one, we can hope that world leaders come together and, you know, act on carbon emissions, etc.
Yes.
What is more likely to happen and possible in our hands is how we plan our cities. And I'm going to come back for a follow-up to Professor Gupta on this because, you know, of your experience in the National Institute of Urban Affairs, about how these cities, far from being smart cities, are really dumb cities in this situation. And are we in any way even looking at how to fix this? Now, if we know there's going to be this unusual rainfall, we'll have to start preparing for it.
Absolutely. So the idea is that we hope for the best and prepare for the worst. And as you rightly said, that mitigation, reducing greenhouse gas emissions is something that we're obviously hoping for. But the fact also is that short-term and medium-term projections of climate models tell us that just as Sunita was mentioning, that the rainfall is going to get much more erratic, and that is only one manifestation of climate change. You are sitting right now in Mumbai. It's a coastal city. So we also know that major Indian cities which are on the coast, Chennai, Mumbai, Kolkata, are also going to be very severely affected by rising sea levels. We know that there are going to be more frequent episodes of heat waves. So all in all, the data is incontrovertible that climate and weather are going to be very, very adversely affecting us. Yes, in terms of what we can do, we should try and do what we can, but obviously I would say very categorically that in this government, its ability to manage headlines is far more better than its ability to actually manage policies. And the form and the substance have to be differentiated. The word climate, the word smart cities sounds very nice, but as you rightly said, precious little has been done. So in terms of actual measures on the ground, one hardly sees anything, and that is, I think, great cause for concern and alarm. We definitely need to do a lot better on this. It's a very complex question. It's not got very straightforward answers, but I think it's much more than just sloganeering, which is all that this government seems to be good at.
No, but we need to start talking about what we can do in the current situation. But before that, Ms. Narana, I'm going to come to the point on, how the Indian government is currently tackling it. On the world stage, we are making the right noises on climate change. We're heading towards banning single-use plastic. All of these are good moves. They're being appreciated. But what about preparing for the impact of climate change? Because we can't wish this one away. It's coming. We need to be ready.
Tamanna, I think two things. One, I think we are making the right moves globally, but the fact is the global community is far from doing anything. And I think as yet, countries like India are really not, speaking about the elephant in the room. I mean, the world community wants countries like India, large parts of Africa to move on climate change and climate action. We need to do things in our own interests, but the fact is, unless we seriously reinvent the energy system in the West, particularly in countries like the US, where in the last year emissions have actually gone up when they need to be declining by 10 to 15%, and they're actually gone up. So I think we are all, the global community right now is playing this lovely tango where, nice big words and everybody comes and makes sort of big statements, but the actual elephant in the room is still the US and Australia and many other countries who are doing too little too late. And there are major question of climate victims today. We have large areas of the world who are being affected, poor are being affected, who are not the creators of the problem. I don't think the world is calling it out as yet. I think there's too much genteel sort of talk about it, and we're leaving it to one, young teenager to call out and say, how dare you? And the rest of the world basically looks at it and says, yeah, wonderful, very nice, but then it's business as usual. But the fact, and I just want to, shortly address the other point that you raised is, yes, we need to do something about this. We need to do it in our own interest. And I'm not so despondent as Shrikant is. I think we are now, today the government is talking about a water mission. The fact is, your biggest challenge in your cities is that we see land for buildings, we don't see land for water. And yet cities are going to face a massive, massive water shortage in the years to come unless we can harvest every drop of rain. And in that harvesting and creating the drainage, we can also build resilient, smart cities. So I think it's important for us to be able to explain the possibility of doing things differently, of being able to look at both the water, sewage crisis in our cities and how climate change is only going to exacerbate it. And also that there are solutions out there. I mean, every house needs to do rainwater harvesting. Every city needs a law to protect its wetlands. We need to make sure that the drainage systems of our cities, whether it is Mumbai, which is hell-bent on destroying its rivers and its last remaining drainage systems, or Delhi or anywhere else, those have to be non-negotiable.
No, absolutely. I want to come to a part of, this preparation you're talking about, and Sunita Narayan mentioned some measures. Let me come to Professor Gupta for some more. You're talking about every building and every, house doing rainwater harvesting, that is for the drought period. What about coastal cities? Do people need to now start thinking about how they are going to live there, how they're going to survive there. Does it need to start becoming a political issue? Because it isn't right now. This question is for Professor Gupta. And at a central level, you may have a lot of plans, but the problem is these have to be implemented at the local level, even at the municipal level.
Well, as you know that urban planning, and there are lots of other issues, as you rightly mentioned, that are local level issues, and there are issues of urban governance. We can talk about them at greater length at some other point in time. But the point certainly is that yes, we really need to start worrying about this, but I'm not so sanguine. I mean, if you look at the builder, politician, mafias, Sunita mentioned about watersheds, wetlands. You know that in most cities we are actually going in the reverse direction. Instead of trying to climate proof these cities, we are making them more climate vulnerable. So I think it's actually quite a worrying situation, and I don't know what to say except that people need to wake up and realize this. Again, there doesn't seem to be, by reading the news and the news cycle, one doesn't get the sense of urgency that one should be seeing. Probably people are not joining the dots, people are not being able to attribute this to climate change, they are thinking of these as one-off events. And actually when you actually start attributing this to climate change, things may be too late. So I think public policy making in our country is actually leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, I'm going to just get a last comment on that point, Sunita, about realizing what is going on, which is why I started by saying people must be wondering what's the big deal. It's just a little bit of extra rain in some places, but it's coming, it's increasing, and it's going to come for you no matter where you live. I don't want to panic people, but it's a reality that hasn't dawned yet.
No, Tamanna, I think people today, if you look at this last monsoon, see, people don't realize that the monsoon, that our rainfall is changing, becoming more extreme, then they don't live on this planet. They certainly don't live in India. But I think what concerns me is that, in fact, what concerns me is that more and more people are, as you began your program and you very correctly sort of put it into perspective, saying, what concerns me is that I'm hearing it all say, oh, what can we do? It's climate change.
Yeah.
And I think what the message that needs to be clear is, yes, climate change is there, but it's only going to get worse. Yeah. And the fact is, we are already mismanaging our own cities, and that is going to make our vulnerability, our risks even higher. Yeah. So I think that's the message that we need to give, because otherwise, being a very fatalistic country, also a country where everybody likes to point to something else. I mean, I live in Delhi, where everybody would like to say, oh, it's all Punjab and Haryana which is the cause of the pollution, as if we don't have SUVs in Delhi. So I think it's very easy to point to somebody else and say, what can we do? It's climate change. And I think the message we need to give very clearly, very, very bluntly, is that we are mismanaging, we are completely destroying our own city environments, and that is only going to make our vulnerability go up, because climate change is not going anywhere.
Absolutely. We need to prepare, we need to prepare better, because we're going to see more and more sites like the ones we've been showing you on our screens. I want to thank the two of you for joining us on the show this evening, and I'm going to end on a bit of good news. While we talk about a slowdown and a drop in consumer spends, e-commerce giants Amazon and Flipkart seem to be having no such troubles. Both companies claim they have surpassed targets on their first day of their big annual sale, with Flipkart even saying that they've got double the numbers on day one compared to last year. Amazon too has reported a strong opening of its sales. Now, a lot of the sales, especially in electronic products, also being driven by deep discounting and loan options. So, e-commerce as of now accounts for just about 5% of all retail sales in India, but has been growing rapidly. The fact that these major players are seeing more Indians willing to splash some cash is definitely an encouraging start. Let's hope it gets even better for all sectors going forward. So, on that optimistic note, I want to thank you for joining us this evening on the India Development Debate. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Good night.